if you haven't figured out yet, happy Boxing Day. For those of you that don't know what Boxing Day is, it is a British holiday, also celebrated up in Canada. We got to learn about it when we lived up there close to 25, 30 years ago. And it was Black Friday before Black Friday. It was the day that you went shopping. See, living up there, it was kind of a pain for individuals to send us gifts, so they would send us money. Put it in an envelope, it mails up there, you don't have to pay a lot of postage on it. Well, the exchange rate was very favorable also. So we'd get this money, and then we would go out on Boxing Day. I bought, for half price, this great 5-disc CD changer. Some of you are going, what? But back in the day, that was pretty cool. You didn't have to change CDs after every one. 5 of them, you could go for hours listening to it. I remember going warehouses. This one store just had a warehouse. And you'd just go in, everything was in boxes, and you'd take it and go up to the counter, and it was great. The history of it, if you're not aware of that, was from nobles in England. They would take their boxes that they got Christmas gifts in, and they would take their old stuff and put it in the box and pass it on to their servants. So really the idea of regifting has been around for centuries. But it is kind of more of a Christian aspect, if you think. It's taking what you have and passing it on. In honor of Boxing Day and that thought, I want to look at 3 things. But before I get into it, will you bow with me in prayer? Gracious, loving Father, I thank you for your love and your kindness, and I thank you for those that are here today. I pray that you be with those that are traveling, that you keep them safe on the road. Father, I just pray that you guide me in my thoughts right now. It's in your Son's most blessed name we pray. Amen. The first gift I want to bring out of this box is, we know the Nutcracker, a soldier. All right? Well, what I want to talk about with that is bravery. The idea of what bravery is to show courage, to endure even when things are difficult or situations are difficult without fear. I like that. If God is with us, we should be brave. Now, that doesn't mean nothing is going to go wrong. It just means we can be brave as we go through difficult situations. It's kind of like as a kid. Kids are scared. What do? If they have a bad dream, they're scared. They go running to their parents. They climb in bed, and they feel more comfortable. They feel secure. They feel safe. That's what it's talking about. With God, we have that security. Things are going to go bad at times. But we can have that security. We have that bravery, so to speak, to go forward. It's the idea of trusting God in being secure in that relationship and knowing eternally where we're going. The idea of trusting. I've mentioned before our dog Grasshopper we had for a very long time. This dog had attitude. Amazing dog. We taught it with these little pins like this to bowl. Told it to bowl. It'd go knock them all down with its nose and stuff. But it wasn't the bravest dog. Well, one place we lived, we had a pool, and we had a deck off the kitchen area. And it was a fenced-in deck, but the door that went out, we had a little screen that the dog could pop in and out of. Well, I mentioned the pool because behind us was a guy that had 2 Belgian Malinois. I know I couldn't get that right. Which, these are the dogs, we think of German Shepherds as the army dogs. These are what they use. They're smart. They're leaner. These dogs, there was a 6-foot security fence. Without much trouble, these dogs could climb over that. And if they were thirsty, they would climb over that and come over and get a drink out of our pool. Now, they were at first you're going, okay, but they were fine. We'd pet them, they'd come up, we knew the names and stuff. Well, this one day I came home and I let Grasshopper out the back door. And he goes out, the little thing go down the steps to do his business. And he's usually back within a minute or so. And he's not. Wait a few more minutes, and he's still not back. I don't know what's going on. So I go out the door, and I look down, and I don't see him. So I go down the screen, and I walk down the stairs. And here's all the dogs sniffing each other, saying hello. So they're just having their, normal. Yeah, how you doing? Yeah, you too, okay. And everything. And, they're all fine. Well, as soon as I get there, Grasshopper, who was not real big, he was mainly looked like a Cocker Spaniel. He was a Cocker mix. Comes over behind me and goes, woo! Just barking like crazy at these other dogs, like, we're going to take you on. You guys are in trouble now. I looked at him, and I said, get up there. Those dogs could take us out with no trouble at all. But all of a sudden, because I was there, he was brave, and he was willing to take on those other dogs. That's kind of how it is with God. Things can be scary. Things can be difficult. But we have that sense of security when God is there. That sense that, no matter what happens to me in this world, my eternity is secure. I'm going to be with God. That idea of bravery, of showing courage. It's that gift we get that we can pass on to others by the way we live our lives, by what they see, how we act as we go through this life, how we react at times in a godly way, showing whose we are, showing the bravery, so to speak, we have, knowing we're with God. So that's the first gift I want to pull out of the box. The second one, I was going to read some passages here. I forgot about them. Okay, let's read those. Matthew, I'm going to pull them all up there. I'm just going to mention these. These passages deal with Jesus telling people, do not be afraid. Jesus is walking on water, and the apostles, he says, don't be afraid. He heals them, don't be afraid. The idea of we don't have to be afraid when we with Jesus, when God is there. The idea of bravery. Alrighty? All right, now let's move on. Next one we have, I'm going to pull out of the box, is a smiley face. Well, that doesn't mean a whole lot until you put it with these guys, okay? All right, what were those guys? Those guys, it doesn't show up quite as well, but those are frowny faces. Those guys are blue. The idea of being blue. The thing I want to talk about is optimism, okay? Second point I want is to look at is optimism. The first passage here in Luke chapter 5, I want to read first 8 verses. One day, as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, and the people crowded around him and listened to the word of God, he saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by the fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked to put out a little from shore. They sat down and taught the people from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down your nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything, but because you say so, I will let down the nets." Think about this. Here's this carpenter telling the fishermen how to fish. And he's more than a carpenter. Obviously, he called him master, and he just sat there and he taught the people. So he's a rabbi of sorts to the individual. So he believes in him somewhat. But think about that. I don't see him being real optimistic early on this. Let me read on. He answered, "We've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets." When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. The idea of being optimistic when we come in contact with Christ. Being optimistic as we go through this world. Luke chapter 10, I want to read there, verse 17. Jesus had sent out 72. Sent out to go heal, to teach. And as they come back, it said, the 72 returned with joy and said, Lord, even the demons submit to us in your name. Things happened. See, we need to be optimistic because God is in control. Be it as we go through life talking to people about things. Be it as we go fishing, so to speak. The trust in God, being optimistic that things aren't going to necessarily work out the way I want, but who's in control? God is in control. And the idea that He's going to get us through things regardless of how difficult it is. And as we get through these things, as we go through life, we can be optimistic because even if things stink at times, even if things are rough, I'm going to be in heaven. Even if I don't have it all together down here, I get to be in heaven with God. So see, we can be optimistic in that. As you guys know, I'm a Michigan fan. Okay? They play Friday night. I don't have cable. It's on ESPN, and so my family always tries to help me find some way to watch it. What was it? They've got me free trials before, and the password was too cheap to pay. I think I'm actually going to pay for one because, are they going to win? Well, let's say, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a tough game. Let's say you know ahead of time. Well, you don't know if they're going to win or lose, but you know they're going to play for the national championship. You're going to be optimistic watching that game? Yeah. Something goes bad, an interception, a fumble. They're down by 30 points. But if you know they're going to play for the championship down the road, you know the outcome of that game. And you can be optimistic, even when things are tough. See, that's the optimism that we have with God. That's the idea that we're going to be in heaven. We can be optimistic even when things are tough in this world because of His Son coming into this world and dying on that cross for us. The idea that we can have that optimism going forward. The gift we receive when we walk with God, we pass it on. Bravery, we share. Optimism, it's a passion that we can pass on. And the last thing I want to pull out of this box is a cookie. Okay? Now, if you are following along and you know how I do things, you're wondering how a cookie fits with this. Because it's got to be an X, right? Well, the idea of xylose. Okay? I know, it's a stretch, but it's who I am. Xylose is a type of sugar. Okay? The chemical compound of it is different, slightly different than sucrose, but it is a type of sugar. And so that's what I put. Well, why do I have it up there? I'm going to go to Exodus chapter 16. I'm going to read a couple passages from Exodus. Exodus chapter 16. I want to start with verses 14 and 15. When the dew was gone, the flakes like frost on the ground appeared on a desert floor. When the Israelites saw it, they said to each other, "What is this?" For they did not know what it was. This is the manna. It's translated into the Greek, it's manna, but the Hebrew word there means, what is this? God provided this manna for them. They had quail in the evening and manna every morning. And God provided and took care of them. Okay, well, let me read another passage. Drop down a little bit. Verse 31. And this is what is kind of interesting to me. The people of Israel called the bread manna. It was white like coriander seed and tasted like wafers made with honey. Ever think of that? This bread was a sweet bread. A sweetness that had come down from heaven for God. What is this? I once heard someone say that if you're on a desert island and you can only have one food, what food would you take? Well, personally, I would take deep fry. Okay, that's my favorite food group. Anything deep fried. But what this person had said was dog food. I'm going, ugh, dog food. But it said it had all the nutrients and everything in there that the dog needs, so you could survive on that. I don't know if I would want dog food. I would maybe take oatmeal, but then again, I'd want brown sugar on top of it. But it's in the top 5 food groups that are good for you. Okay? Lentils. Yeah, I wouldn't want those as much. They're in there. And then, of course, there's broccoli, which I only eat with cauliflower and rice and chicken and a whole lot of Velveeta. It's good stuff Holly makes. But it's the idea of God gave them this food. And He not only gave them food, He gave them sweet food. I love that. Think about it. God could have given them anything, but this manna tasted good. God took care of them for 40 years with that. I remember that each week when we partake of the Lord's Supper. We had a little bit of grape juice and the sweet, refreshing. There's some weeks it's like, boy, I wish I could take 3 or 4 of those, or we had bigger cups of them, because that grape juice is sweet. It's refreshing. That's what God gave us as part of the remembrance of what Christ did for us. He takes care of us. He gives us the sweetness of the sacrifice of His Son dying on that cross, the sweetness of His love for each and every one of us. Sweetness reminds us of the optimism we can have as we go through this world. And because God is there, we can be brave. Boxing Day is man-made. It comes out of an affluent society. The idea that the nobles had, and then they gave some of what they had, they passed it on. Like I say, it's got kind of a Christian aspect to it. There's a kindness of passing on what you received. For us, we pass on the love of God. We pass on the grace. We pass on the life that He has given us so that others may know of that. I've got one last thing I'm going to pull out of the box here. It doesn't fit with the acrostic there or anything else, but it just kind of is kind of fitting as I finish up today. It is an alarm clock. All right. Well, I don't know if you clock things, but I'm getting done a little early today. I'm giving you a gift of some extra time, either to visit with each other this morning, or maybe you came here and you made that commitment and said, but we're going to be tight because we got to get out to Aunt Gertrude's for lunch. You can take off a couple minutes early. But I want you to think about something. What has been done for us? The boxes. Over this next week, as you take out all the boxes from all the gifts and stuff and put them in recycle, you get down to boxes and pack up all the Christmas stuff and pack it away for another year. Remember the great gift that God has given us. And think about Boxing Day and the idea of taking what we have and passing that on. Let's think about that. Let's go forward with that thought.